Good morning, friends. Welcome to our weekly read and discuss session. Today we are reading the book. We are reading the summary of book "Thinking Fast and Slow" by Daniel Kahneman, summarized by Eric Johnson. Daniel Kahneman's aim in this book is to make psychology, perception, irrationality, decision making, errors of judgment, cognitive science, intuition, statistics, uncertainty, logical thinking, stock market gambles, and behavioral economics easy for the masses to grasp. Despite his charming and conversational style, this book was very difficult for me because I am accum- accustomed to thinking fast. As a service to my fellow automatic, intuitive, error-making fast thinkers, I offer this simple, dumbed-down summary of what is a very helpful book. Writing this summary taught me how to think harder, clearer, and with few cognitive illusions. In short, how to think slower. Now, if only I'll do it. Introduction. This book is about the biases of our intuition. That is, we assume certain things automatically without having thought through them carefully. Naiman calls those assumptions heuristic. Page 7. He spends nearly 500 pages listing examples of how certain heuristics lead to muddled thinking, given each a name such as halo effect, availability bias, associative memory, and so forth. In this summary, the list of Kahneman's heuristics to list of errors of judgment. Part 1, Two Systems. Chapter 1, The Characteristics of the Story. Our brains are comprised of two characters, one that thinks fast, system 1, and one that thinks slow, system 2. System 1 operates automatically, intuitively, involuntarily, and effortlessly, like when we drive, read an angry facial expression, or recall our age. System 2 requires slowing down deliberately, solving problems, reasoning, computing, focusing, concentrating, considering other data, and not jumping to quick conclusions. Like when we calculate a math problem, choose where to invest money, or fill out complicated form. These two systems often conflict with another. System 1 operates on heuristic that may not be accurate. System 2 requires efforts evaluating those heuristic and is prone error. The plot of this book is how to recognize situations in which mistakes are likely and try harder to avoid significant mistakes when stakes are high. Page 28. Chapter 2, Attention and Efforts. Thinking slow affects our body's dilated pupils, attention, limited observation, and energy depleting resources. Because thinking slow takes work, we are prone to think fast, the path of least resistance. Laziness is built deep in our nature. We think fast to accomplish routine tasks, and we need to think slow in order to manage complicated tasks. Thinking fast says, I need groceries. Thinking slow says, I will not try to remember what to buy but write myself a shopping list. Chapter 3, The Lazy Controller. People on a leisurely stroll will stop walking when asked to complete a difficult mental task. Calculating while walking is an energy drain. This is why being interrupted while concentrating is frustrating, why we forget to eat when focused on an interesting project, why multitasking while driving is dangerous, and why resisting temptation is extra hard when we are stressed. Self-control shrinks when we are tired, hungry, or mentally exhausted. Because of this reality, we are prone to let System 1 take over intuitively and impulsively. Most people do not take the trouble to think through a problem. Intelligence is only the ability to reason. It's also ability to find relevant material in the memory and to deploy attention when needed. Accessing memory takes effort, but by not doing so, we are prone to make mistakes in judgment. I'll stop here. Uh, Do you want to go next?
Okay. Okay. So chapter 4, the associative machine. Heuristic number 1, priming. Conscious and subconscious exposure to an idea primes us to think about an associated idea. If we have been talking about food, we'll fill in the blank SO blank P with a U. But if we've been talking about cleanliness, we will fill in the blank with the same SO blank P with an A. Things outside of our conscious awareness can influence how we think. These subtle influences also affect behavior, the ideomotor effect. Page 53. People reading about the elderly will unconsciously walk slower, and people who are asked to walk slower will more easily recognize words related to old age. People asked to smile find jokes funnier. People asked to frown find disturbing pictures more disturbing. It is true. If we behave in certain ways, our thoughts and emotions will eventually catch up. We can not only feel our way into behavior, we can behave our way into feelings. Potential for error? We're not objective rational thinkers. Things influence our judgment, attitude, and behavior that we are not even aware of. Chapter 5, Cognitive Ease. Heuristic number 2, cognitive ease. Things are easier to compute, more familiar and easier to read, seem more true than things that require hard thought. Our novels are hard to see. A novel are hard to see. Predictable illusions inevitably occur if a judgment is based on the impression of cognitive ease or strain. Page 62. How do you know that a statement is true? If it is strongly linked by logic or association to other beliefs or preferences you hold or come from source you trust and like, you will feel a sense of cognitive ease. Page 64. Because things because things are familiar seem to more true, teachers, advertisers, marketers, authorities, tyrants, even cult leaders repeat their message endlessly. Potential for error: if we hear a lie often enough, we tend to believe it. Chapter 6, Norms, Surprises, and Causes. Heuristic number 3, Coherent Stories. Associative coherence makes sense of the world. We tell ourselves stories wrong. We make associations between events, circumstances, and regular occurrences. The more these events fit into our story, the more normal they seem. Things that don't occur as expected take us by surprise. To fit those surprises into our world, we tell ourselves new stories to make them fit. We say everything happens for a purpose. God did it. The person acted out of character. Or that's so weird it can't be a random chance. Abnormalities, anomalies, and incongruities in daily living beg for coherent explanations. Often those explanations involve 1, assuming intention, it was meant to happen; 2, causality, they're homeless because they're lazy; 3, interpreting providence, there's a divine purpose in everything. We are evidently ready from birth to have impressions of causality which do not depend on reasoning about patterns of causation. Page 76. Your mind is ready and even eager to identify agents and assign them personality traits and specific intentions, and view their actions as expressing individual propensities. Page 76. Potential for error: we posit intentions and agencies where none exist. We confuse causality with correlation, and we make more out of coincidences than is statistically warranted. Okay, I'll stop here.
Chapter 7, A Machine for Jumping to Conclusions. Heuristic number 4. Confirmation bias. This is the tendency to search for and find confirming evidence for a belief while overlooking counterexamples. Jumping to conclusions is sufficient if the conclusions are likely to be correct and the costs of an occasional mistake acceptable, and if the jump saves much time and effort. Jumping to conclusions is risky when the situation is unfamiliar, the stakes are high, and there is no time to collect more information. Page 79. System 1 fills in ambiguity with automatic guesses and interpretations that fit our stories. It rarely considers other interpretations. When System 1 makes a mistake, System 2 jumps in to slow us down and consider alternative explanations. System 1 is gullible and biased to believe. System 2 is in charge of doubting and unbelieving, but System 2 is sometimes busy and often lazy. Page 81. Potential for error. We are prone to overestimate the probability of unlikely events, irrational fears, and accept uncritically every suggestion. Credulity. Heuristic number 5, the halo effect. This is the tendency to like or dislike everything about a person, including things you have not observed. Page 82. The warming emotion we feel toward a person, place, or thing predisposes us to like everything about that person, place, or thing. Good first impressions tend to positively color later negative impressions, and conversely, negative first impressions can negatively color later positive impressions. The first to speak their opinion in a meeting can prime others' opinions. A list of positive adjectives describing a person influences how we interpret negative adjectives that come later in the list. Likewise, negative adjectives listed early colors later positive adjectives. The problem with all these examples is that our intuitive judgments are impulsive, not clearly thought through or critically examined. To remind System 1 to stay objective, to resist jumping to conclusions, and to enlist the evaluative skills of System 2, Kahnemann coined the abbreviation WISIATI. What you see is all there is. In other words, do not lean on information based on impressions or intuitions. Stay focused on the hard data before us. Combat overconfidence by basing our beliefs not on subjective feelings but critical thinking. Increase clear thinking by giving doubt and ambiguity its day in court. Chapter 8, How Judgments Happen. Heuristic number 6, Judgment. System 1 relies on intuition, the basic assessments of what's going on inside and outside the mind. It is prone to ignore some like variables. Page 93. We often fail to accurately calculate sums, but rely instead on often unreliable intuitive averages. It is prone to matching. Page 94. We automatically and subconsciously rate the relative merits of a thing by matching dissimilar traits. We are prone to evaluate a decision without distinguishing which variables are more important. This is called the mental shotgun approach. Page 95. These basic assessments can easily replace the hard work System 2 must do to make judgments. Chapter 9, an easier question. Heuristic number 7, substitution. When confronted with a perplexing problem, question, or decision, we make life easier for ourselves by answering a substitute, simpler question. Instead of estimating the probability of a certain complex outcome, we rely on an estimate of another, less complex outcome. Instead of grappling with the mind-bending philosophical question, what is happiness? We answer the easier question, what is my mood right now? Page 98. Even though highly anxious people activate System 2, often obsessing and second-guessing every decision, fear, or risk, it is surprising how often System 1 works just fine for them. Even chronic worriers function effortlessly in many areas of life while System 1 is running in the background. They walk, eat, sleep, breathe, make choices, make judgments, trust, and engage in enterprises without fear, worry, or anxiety. Why? They replace vexing problems with easier problems. Potential for error? We never get around to answering the harder question. Heuristic number 8, affect. Emotions influence judgment. People let their likes and dislikes determine their beliefs about the world. Page 103. Potential for error? We can let our emotional preferences cloud our judgment and either under or overestimate risks and benefits. All right, I'll stop here.
Uh, wow, looks like the book is big enough. So, Julia, are we discussing this or we are good? Like how you want to? You are muted. Looks like.
Sorry. No, I think we can discuss this, and
Yeah.
then we can talk about what to do with the class after the discussion, after I turn off um, the broadcast. How's that?
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
That's fine.
I think yeah. So for one of the thing is I think I like the idea of like slow thinking, fast thinking. It's like very good examples. Like for example, we can doing any maths mental calculation is like slow thinking because we have very hard. We want to memorize something, keep numbers and then add and so on and so forth, right? Versus the other one, like for example, like while driving, you are talking also with a passenger and listening to music. So those kind of two systems where one is like things slows, doesn't matter, and one is like thinking fast. So we can do some kind of multitasking. Um, so I like the way, like I think this is more kind of biases. It's how we are coming up with what do you call, with a decision. So different like cognitive ease or priming, the example that he mentions. So yeah, I think uh, based from the summary, every chapter probably focuses on one aspect, like how you make a decision, and then talks about different biases in making that decision. Yeah, so that's from my side. Yeah.
When do you want to go next? You want me to go next?
I'll go next. Towards the end, it was talked about defining happiness. Well, in this course on happiness, the Coursera course, one of the first things they tell you is, well, what is your definition of happiness, and what things in life make you happy?
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, and then we have to send, we post our definitions, and then some other people have to evaluate us, and we have to evaluate them. We have to evaluate like 5 people, other people's definitions of happiness. How do they define happiness, and what things make them, activities, what foods do they like to eat that make them happy, what activities make them happy,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. That's what caught my eye. Oh, that's it.
Oh, I'm not muted. Okay. Yeah. When I first like the other article, there's more emphasis on like the fast thinking, slow thinking. He goes on to say eventually that you can even improve your fast thinking because if you, for example, if you do exercises, then
Mhm.
that part of your mind can think fast and accurately. Um, I I find these heuristics or biases very, very interesting,
Yeah.
and that's why I suggested this because the other ones didn't go into the biases. And there's some YouTubes on the, I can't remember the guy. There was not him, but some other guy who actually went through all the biases and was very interesting to see. Um, I think every part of our need for happiness is to know the truth.
Mm.
Because if we don't see the truth, no matter how much we want it, it's not going to happen. So if we have for example, they talk about the causation bias. If we link two different, if we think the result to the wrong cause, no
Mhm.
matter what we do, let's say if we link, I don't know, some relationship happiness based on, if you think this is what you want, just go ahead and do it and be honest to yourself, right?
Right.
So you think as long as you're honest to yourself, you'll be happy.
Mhm.
And then your relationship doesn't think so because they want to think so too. So that's an incorrect understanding of causal relationship.
Right.
And so we need to really understand the true causal relationship. So I think the biases are interesting because they help us become reaching to a truer state of mind.
Right. Right. Um, so one thing like we so if we how may like how we will relate that our decision is based on some bias. I mean, unless we introspect, like okay, I'm saying this because so and so, because of so and so, and then okay, I'm falling into like halo. Is this a halo effect, or is this um, based on okay, this is coming because of my this bias? Like for example, every time we let's say we are facing some issue, let's say coding issue or something technical issue, and we are trying to correlate things that are really easy, like oh, this must have happened because I'm so and so, and because like we see that oh, something is very like obvious or something, we'll just make that assumption. But sometimes if you do a deep RCA or root cause analysis and we see that that was not the reason, but the initial we think like oh, this is like something comes to our mind, oh, it must be related to this one, and then we just go with it and close it, based on initial work, like without doing much thinking. But if sometimes we spend a lot of time to root causes and we find that our initial whatever we said was not correct, and there is different thing that leads to different things. So uh, I'm not sure like we should do all the time the deep analysis, or is it just uh, some people are good at like it's just like some bias that comes in making our decision. How we can eliminate that bias. Uh, I mean,
I think I think
Mhm.
one of the things you mentioned that's really uh, critical
Mhm.
is when you talk about coding problems. IBM in the 1970s did a study, and
Mhm.
they found out that back then, I don't know what the uh, failure rate is. Back then, there is a tremendous failure rate for
Mhm.
commercial computer system projects.
Mhm.
And they found that 50% or half of the failures were not technical issues.
Mhm.
They were communication issues.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think debugging is a problem that I have. I'm a terrible debugger because I'm basically optimistic.
Mhm.
How
Yeah.
can I write bad code, right? Like, my
True.
code has to work because I thought it through.
Yeah. True. That is true. Yeah. I did. I'm also like that.
It's really hard to debug, for me, my own code. Um, but the other thing is like when we present a system to the users and the users don't accept it, then that's actually where half of the mistakes are before launch.
Mhm.
So I think that's one of the things is we assume what did it was one of these um, I guess he hasn't said it, but it's one of the judgment things. We always think we are right. That's heuristics number 6, that we judge ourselves to be right. But yeah, getting to the root causes. And then the other thing that's really interesting is this idea of the
Mm.
halo effect, which was like if we're in the middle of this,
Mm.
things will affect us without we knowing it. So uh, it also speaks to like who your friends are will affect how you think of, because they're influencing you all the time.
True. True.
You know. So I think it's I'm really excited about discussing this more than reading this.
Yeah. Yeah. True. One other thing would be taking one bias and seeing like where where we apply our bias or where was the past I use this bias. Like going back and there are so many heuristics, so many biases we make decision based off.
Yeah,
Uh, Maybe right, maybe wrong, but yeah, it would be good to know like okay, maybe this bias I made this decision because of this bias. Although it might be right or wrong, because we will make a decision based on bias only. I don't think we. I mean, we'll make some with a lot of data, but most of the time we don't have enough data, so we'll put some
yeah,
heuristic around it, some kind of bias.
right. Connecting the missing
Yeah,
dot.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, like vision bias, like when Wendy says, when her aide sees, Wendy, like for example, when your aide sees that you're small
Mm,
and they right away assume you can't do certain things, that's a kind of associative bias.
Yeah.
mm, mm,
Um, and also, the other thing that's very interesting that I was thinking about is like, you had mentioned it too earlier, the idea of our mindset. Like,
mm,
if you have a growth mindset, some incidents happen, you will consider it to be a challenge if you have a growth mindset. If you don't have a growth mindset, you may consider it like assault on the ego.
mm,
That's kind of what's in the background,
mm,
somewhere in, I guess I would call it kind of like priming,
mm,
like where you are at, what frame of reference you have, what core values you have, primes the way you think.
mm.
You know. So it's important to look at our core values too. Yeah, great.
Cool. Okay. Uh, so we move to our next session then, like commitments for the week.
Commitments.
Yeah. So for me, like this week, I'll again focus on like uh, gym for at least 2 days. I'm following my cricket, so after this session, I'll go for the cricket. I have to send you pictures. Like I have the pictures, but I'll definitely send you. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so then so on Saturdays or on Friday nights we go and play TT in some Microsoft campus. So that's been happening. So hopefully that all is like more on those physical activities help me reduce my weight or at least keep it in control. So far the weight is constant. It's not increasing. It's not decreasing. I don't know if I should feel happy about it, although I wanted it to decrease a little bit. Uh, so that's that. Reading wise, on and off I've been reading, but this time I need to focus more on some technical issues. So I've been reading about Kafka and other stuff, uh, more on work related and some papers on map reduce and others. Uh, yeah, yeah, and I just like being on call. I couldn't do much last week. So I had to be constantly near the phone, and there were a lot of issues for the last week. So this week, I'm hoping for a quiet week. I'm not on call, so it would be good. That's from my side. Do you want to go next, Wendy?
Uh, well, for me, it's keep up with my yoga and my exercise, and hopefully by this time next week, I'll be finished with reading I Am a Strange Loop. Trying to read as much as I can each day, a couple of chapters each day, so I can get really through it. And like I said, keep up my yoga and my exercise. Hopefully, I'll see my sister sometime this week, next couple of days. And I don't think there's anything else going on this week. Not that's it.
Okay, so I continue to have a problem with my mouth. Right now, it looks like it could be some kind of autoimmune thing. It's not a big problem. It's not painful. So I'm going to continue to work on that. Do some research on that. I'm not a very good researcher, especially if something's bothering me. But I talked to my friend in Chicago. She sent me some material to read. So I read on that. Also, I'm going to get a massage, a therapeutic massage every week for that, just opening up the energy. And I'm doing 2 cardios a day, like you go out for a walk, play pickleball, or go down treadmill. It could be even 10 minutes the second time around, but just to keep the energy up. For the micro mentor, while I'm trying to create a peer mentoring or collaboration program, I have a meeting on Monday. And I don't know who's going to show up. I have a little bit of anxiety, but it was going to be an experiment. So whatever, there's no expected outcome. It's just gathering knowledge. So I think some of the things is the people who are not used to collaboration, they don't, and I need to explain it better. They don't understand that the regularity is a part of the program, that if they make a commitment, they have to show up every week. And so out of that, then they didn't understand how important it was to pick the time. And I am beginning to get the sense that they don't know how much work it is for them. So perhaps I need to create a more like a mini workshop to orient people who are interested instead of launching them right into the weekly program. So that's been very interesting. I guess now that I'm talking about it a little bit. And the second thing is I started the online Zen meditation. It hasn't gone well. We're supposed to do it twice a month, first and second week of the month, and even the teacher doesn't show up. So I'm going to try to up it to every week. I'm talking to him about it because it becomes more regular, and then try to publicize it a little more. And if it doesn't work after that, I guess I'll give it like 2 more months. If it doesn't work after that, I'm just going to quiesce it. Kill it. That's it. Those are my major things this week.
Oh, cool.
Okay. I'm going to stop the broadcast. So